It's a real pleasure to present RITCH Macefield, who's going to talk about the great widget in the sky, and he'll probably reveal to you where this name came from. So RITCH, I'm sure many of you know from his previous appearances at Axure World and the books he participates in and his group on LinkedIn, is the CEO of Extreme, Axure's training partner for UK, Europe, and most recently in the US. So RITCH has 30 years of IT experience, 20 years of UXD experience, and is a PhD in HCI. His own UXD work focuses on conceptual design of large-scale IT systems, strategic consulting around integrating prototyping and UCD into agile methodologies, and coaching and mentoring UX team. So he's been using Axure since 2008, contributed to Axure 6 and 7 books that I wrote, and is a regular Axure presenter. He's an Axure Saifu on Axure Forum and owns Axure RP Pro LinkedIn group. So with that, I'll turn it to you.
Okay. Well, first of all, Ezra, thanks for those kind words. It's a pleasure once again to be here. Before I start my presentation, I just wanted to make a comment about Archie's presentation. I really enjoyed that. That was a real concise capturing of a lot of the projects I've been doing recently. I've been involved in Lean UX in exactly the same way, and I'm using Axure in pretty much exactly the same way too, so that was really good to hear. As for my presentation, The Great Widget in the Sky, another one of the Pink Floyd titles, this is going to be about my take, or one aspect of the take, on collaboration in UX teams. So I'm going to refer you to a couple of UXD articles I've written over the past few years. This one's called UX Defined, and in there I talk about the role of usability engineering, and particularly specialist resource. So we all know, or I guess I hope we all know, that Axure is a phenomenal tool for producing prototypes which we can then usability test with real users in formal usability tests or guerrilla testing, or just show them to clients. I'm going to talk about a different type of usability test, which is this one. This is what I call an expert heuristic evaluation, but goes by many names. But this is basically the idea of where we get a usability expert to review either an existing product that's been deployed already, or a prototype. And I quite often do both of those. I wouldn't say a lot, but probably do about 3 or 4 a year. And it occurred to me that I could actually use Axure to help me do this. So I'm going to show you how I do it. Now, I'm just going to scan through this article and pick out a couple of things I'd like you to keep in mind. So in an expert usability review, we're typically looking at outputting some kind of report or PowerPoint deck, and that's where this comes into its own for me. So that's one thing to remember. We're typically looking at applying some usability heuristics to the review, and so here's some of the heuristics that I use, so you can maybe keep that in mind for the rest of the presentation. When we do these reviews, what we're really doing is trying to find issues in the design and relate those, or rank those rather. So quite often we use a traffic light system like this one. So we say it's a minor problem, it's a serious problem, or a critical problem. And well, I advocate at least that we want to try and map these to screenshots so people can really relate to what you're talking about rather than being in the abstract. Final couple of things I want to say about this article is there's a number of kind of general approaches to doing an expert review. The one I tend to favor is this one, where we pick a user journey, a red route journey through a system, whether that's a prototype or an existing system, and we look for problems on the way as we go through the screens. This one, so we're looking at reporting of results. In the reports we tend to produce, we tend to state what heuristics we use and provide a CV, a summary, that kind of stuff. And if we take all that together, what I've been doing is using facilities within Axure to help me produce these reports, and I'm just going to show you how I do that. Partly I'm going to show you because when I wrote this article, there's a few comments, and a lot of people either commented or just emailed me direct saying, can you show me exactly how you use Axure to do this? So this is partly in response to the theme for this year's Axure World of Collaboration, and it's partly in hoping to meet those requests. Okay, so let me show you how I'm going to build a expert heuristic evaluation report using Axure of a website. It doesn't have to be a website, of course, it could be anything else, but it will be in this case. So I'm going to introduce you to two assets I have. These are the two assets. One is an Axure RP lib file, that's an Axure library, and the other one is a Microsoft Word template. And I'm going to show you the template first. And if you're not familiar with how you use Microsoft Word with Axure, most people are familiar with using it in relation to generating specs for developers, then hopefully you'll pick up some ideas as we go along. But let me just show you this template first. Just going to put it on the screen for you. Okay. So this is just a simple Microsoft Word document, and it's got a logo and it's got an expert heuristic evaluation, a place to put the name of the project, and it's a front page. This is important. This is a table of contents. It's one we can update automatically in Word. It's built from the heading styles. Those of you familiar with Word will know this. Now in this, I've got a place where I can put project objectives, which would be specific to the evaluation I'm doing, of course. I've got an overview of what these evaluations are and how they're done. I've got a list of all the heuristics I'm looking at as I go through the evaluation. So that's in that, and I'm going to keep scrolling. So you see here. Now, in the evaluation methodology specifically, you'll see that concept here of I'm going to actually look for issues in the interface which are minor, serious, and critical. And I'm also going to make some recommendations. One of the key things about heuristic evaluations is that you typically want the expert to say, well, here's a problem and here's some ideas about how to solve it. So that's in the report template. Now here, when I get to section 6, you see this tag here that says insert Axure spec, and as I said before, this facility of Axure is actually designed for generating specs for developers, hence the tag. I'm going to use it in a different way. Now we then go to 7, which is some references I use, then there's my CV, and then there's some of my publications. So what we've done is we've got a template, and in the middle of this template we've got this tag here, and what we're going to do is we're going to have Axure stick some stuff and replace what's in that tag and integrate it into this document. So it's integrated in terms of the headings and the table of contents are going to work. So when I've finished my evaluation using Axure, I'm going to literally click a button and have this report pretty much drop out and nicely presented, and so I can pass it on to the client, and hopefully they'll be impressed with the sort of professionalism of this. Okay, so let me close that down. Next asset I told you about is this one. It's called Heuristic Evaluations, and I'm just going to open that up now. Now this widget library, and I'll put this on the screen for us. This widget library has 4 key features. First of all, we have some widgets, and these are like little lenses. They're translucent lenses, and we have an ellipse and a rectangle for minor issues, same for serious, same for critical, and I hope you'll see how those are used in a minute. The widget library also has some pre-configured notes fields, issue level, so that defines the criticality of it, what the issue is, a way of describing the issue, and a recommendation about what we're going to do to solve it. And of course, that will be pre-populated when we use it, so this is predefined, so this one's serious. And we have exactly the same thing in the page notes. So we're going to be able to make comments of various severity about the whole page where it doesn't make sense to map it to a particular feature or features. And when we're doing a an expert review of an existing or a live site, we've also got the page URL. That's sort of more typical of websites, but it still makes some kind of sense in other environments. So I can actually define what page, what live page I'm really talking about here. And these structures are defined in the widget library, okay? The final thing I have in this library is if I go to the generators and I go to more generators and configurations, I have a special Microsoft Word generator here called Expert Review. And if I open it, I can see that what it's doing is it's got some configuration settings in here about masters and page properties and the way screenshots are going to be handled and the way widget tables are set up in here. If you're not familiar with that feature of Axure, I don't really have time to talk about it now, but it's a way of configuring how Axure formats the contents that it will put into that Word template, and it's quite powerful. There's some stuff on layout. So I have this pre-configured, and this is a pretty important area here. This tells it which Microsoft Word document I'm going to be using as my template, and how the headings from Axure and Word are going to be integrated so we get a nice smooth document, and the table of contents all works, okay? And that's all been set up in this configuration. So that's what's inside this widget library. So we'll just close that down. And now I can start my example expert review. So I'll just say no to that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how I begin this. Now, the place where I could be starting here is I could be starting with an existing Axure file that maybe the UX team have been working on with real Axure widgets in it. And I have done that. Or I could be starting with a review of a live site. And it's the second one of those that I'm actually going to be talking about in this presentation. It doesn't really matter which one it is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make myself a folder called, and I'm going to call this Journey 1 by some training from Axstream. And I said Journey 1, didn't I? Make that Journey 1, and I have the home page, and I have a page here called Home. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get up my browser. Now, what I decided to do here is I'm going to make a critique of a website, and I didn't think it was really fair to pick anybody else's website, so I'm going to make a critique of Axstream's own website. So I'm going to make up all kind of bad things that I'm seeing about this, or room for improvement. Now, obviously, it's not real. I don't think our website has all these problems, so please don't get confused with that. So I'm just going to do a pretend critique of this website. So here's how I'm going to go about it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this screen, okay, that I'm looking at. Now, there's a couple of ways I could do this. I could use an iframe and actually load the live screen into here. That's one way of doing it, using the URL. I'm going to use Snagit just to do a screen grab, because that's just a bit more convenient. So we'll grab this whole screen here, I hope. Yeah, so there we go. So we've grabbed that, and we'll use the Snagit manager. For those of you that don't use Snagit, by the way, I think it's a great tool. So that's my screen image. I'm going to copy it, just shrink this, and now I'm going to paste it into Axure. So I'm not going to optimize it because I want the full resolution, very important in usability engineering, so people can really see what it looks like. So there's my home page. Okay. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use two import features on this file. I'm going to go to the file and import from RP file, and I'm going to import some resources from this library. Now, some of you might be asking why I'm just not loading the library. There's a couple of nuances with Axure which mean that this is actually a better way of doing it. So I'm going to, when it says import from IP file, a lot of people don't know you can actually import from the library as well. So that's what I'm doing here. So that's the library. And I'm not interested in the pages in the library, or the masters, or the adaptive views. What I am interested in is importing this guy here. Do you remember that configuration about how it's going to generate word stuff? So I'm going to grab that. I'm also going to import those page notes that I had, and I'm also going to check this box that says remove the notes in the current file and replace them with these. I'm going to do the same with the widget notes. So I have all those three things, and then I can skip to the end, and it gives me a summary of what I'm going to do here. So it's going to say it's importing a word spec generator and some notes fields and some widget note fields. So we can finish with that. And you see on the right hand side there, it's created these notes fields, and we also have the page notes fields. And if we look in the generators, we should see that we have this one here, which I'm going to set as the default. And I'm also just going to make it clean, just get rid of the old one, so we don't get confused. So that worked. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to load my library into the widget panel. So I already have it ready for load, but actually let's do it the long way so you can see that I'm really doing it. So as well as doing an import from that library, I'm now going to load it into the widget panel. So it's saying it'll be refreshed. So there are my widgets. Now all I do with these is I use these lenses to drag them over and just place them on the screen. So let's pretend we have an issue with this flag. Actually, we don't have an issue with this flag, but let's suppose we do. We can say it's serious, and what's the issue? We can say wrong flag. And what's the recommendation? We'll get the right flag. Obviously, this is pretty simplistic. And in a real test, I might be citing some heuristics that are wrong in the interface or something like that. I'm also going to go back to my website, just like I said I would, and I'm going to just steal the URL. So we'll copy that and we'll paste that into here so we know which page we're on. What I could also do is I can say, well, on this page, I've got issue 1, which is the background is too bright. Of course, I don't really think it's too bright, and then I can recommend darkening. I probably made loads of typos in there. I did, but because this is a presentation, I'm not going to waste time curing all those. I might just change the color of these. We can do that in the page notes. And so I can make pages about particular parts of the interface or the page as a whole. And I'm using screen grabs and these lenses to actually do that. So other than screen grabs, that could be an iframe, as I said, linked with into a live web page, or we could be overlaying real actual widgets, and I've done both of those. I don't want to waste everybody's time and keep doing that, so obviously I have one prepared already, so let me just shrink this, and if I go over here and fire up a kind of finished version of this to show you what it looks like, or rather a finished example. And here it is. So that's my home page, and I've done the Swedish flag this time, and I've kind of filled that in. If I go to the training page, you'll see I have a critical issue here. Again, I'd like to emphasize that I don't think our real website has these critical issues, and a bit sort of nicer formatting on some of the page comments, and we can see we have some for serious comments and minor comments. On this page, I'm using a slightly different technique, something I use a lot in my expert reviews of like linking parts of page together and discussing an interrelationship that I want to bring to the client's attention. So these widgets are actually flow widgets. In Axure 8, everything can be flowed, but this is a kind of technique I use all the time to emphasize those. And what we've really done now is we've really captured the essence of the report inside Axure. So let's suppose we've done all that, and we've done it for all our pages, and we've gone through the entire user journey about making a training inquiry on Axure's site, and I've pretty much finished what I want to say, and I've classified these issues, and now it's time for me to make my report. Okay, so this is really simple. I just go here, and if I go to more generators, I pick the right generator, which is this one, and because that configuration has already been brought in for me from the widget library, I can just go ahead and generate it, and it's going to produce me my Word document. And if I scroll down now till to section 6, okay, we're nearly there. Where it used to say insert Axure spec, it now says pages, and we can start to see how we have a screenshot here. If I'll just zoom in on that, and a footnote, and in the table below, we are actually mapping the issues here in the table. And if we go down to this page, we can see we've got some page notes, some issues about the whole page, and we've also got some issues about particular features on there, and they're all kind of in this. And the great thing about this is, however you want to lay it out, however you want this to be formatted, you know, what type of text or font you use, it's fully configurable, and you can actually use a client's template about the way they want their reports done and map the Axure headings to their styles. This is a pretty simplistic thing, but you can see all the screenshots now. How this works. Now, I'd love to sit here and say you can just print out this report as is, and you can, it'd still be pretty good. In reality, you still tend to want to find that you want to tinker around with a bit of the formatting usually, maybe add some more text in a later date. What I'm saying is it kind of does like 95% of the job. And I'm sure with even more work on the template and the heading mapping, you could get it pretty close to 100%. And so there is my nice expert heuristic evaluation done inside Axure, generated as a Microsoft Word report, professionally presented. All I have to do now is maybe convert it to a PDF or print it out and send it on to the client. So what I said I'd tell you is how you use Axure to produce these expert heuristic evaluations. Could be on an existing site, could be overlaying existing work from a UX team in a professional way. And I do about 3 or 4 of these a year, and this is the way I do them. I'd like to thank you for your time. I'm very happy to take any questions. I agreed with Ezra I'd spend about 20 minutes on this, which I think is what I did. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Those assets, that template, and that widget library, I'm very happy to make those available to anybody that wants them. If you want to take a look at those articles, they're obviously in the public domain. That's me done. So thank you very much, everybody, and thank you again to Ezra.
Thank you, Rich. It was fantastic, very interesting. I wanted to ask if you have experimented with publishing these on Axure and including the discussion tab, and so people can stakeholders, others can ask questions using the discussion, so to facilitate the review conversation through the discussion tab.
Actually, it's a really good question. The truth is I haven't, and I'm kind of guessing in the back of my mind. I can kind of think of the reason for that. In that article on UXMatters, I make the point that when you do these reviews, you typically, you're the independent person. You know, in an ideal world, people don't do expert usability reviews of their own work. So I kind of emphasize the point in that article that when you've given the report, then you want to get in front of people and actually have a face-to-face conversation with them, because it's very easy, no matter how diplomatic you say things, that people can get quite emotional about this. So I could imagine if we just did it on Axure that could kind of escalate into a kind of email war. But so I don't know whether that's true. The truth is I never tried it. So it's a very good point. It's a very good question. It's one I hadn't thought of. But,
Yeah, I really like your connectors. In one of your examples, you showed how you connect two items together, and I guess you can type any number of items together and create one topic
exactly.
around it. And that was interesting. And
Yeah.
that immediately got me to think about the discussion table and how you can have
Yeah.
maybe some facilitated or something that's more manageable where
It
the
might well work. Yeah. It's definitely worth trying. When I've done this with real Axure files underneath rather than screen grabs, another comment is I tend to put them in a dynamic panel so you can kind of just switch those lenses
Mhm.
on and off, which
Yeah.
is. But yeah, it's a really good point, Ezra. Maybe I'll try it.
Okay, so thank you so much again. Thank you very much.